Good evening. My name is Nisreen. I'm from Syria. I grew up in a beautiful, diverse country that had zero political diversity. I went to university in Damascus. I worked with immigrants and refugees at the Canadian embassy there. I had tons of friends. I took dance classes. I loved attending film festivals. I got married, had a baby. Then I witnessed a peaceful uprising met by an armed oppression. I became a refugee and continued assisting fellow refugees. I wanted a new life, so I moved to Canada. When Canadians stepped up to sponsor Syrians, I stepped in to assist the people of my new country in saving the people of my home country. 2 years after landing in Canada, I stand here speaking to you at the peace talks. I worked for the Canadian Embassy for over 6 years, during which I filled several positions. But the refugee work was always my favorite. Little did I know that a few years down the road, I would be writing my own refugee story to submit with the rest of my application to Canada. I never thought of leaving Syria before 2011. Both my husband and I had good, stable jobs. All our friends and family were there, so I had no reason to leave. To me, it's never about where you are, it's about who is around you. Less than a year after the heroic Syrian revolution started, Canada decided to end its diplomatic representation in Syria. So approximately 250 people lost their jobs, including myself. Daily bombings increased. I got scared. I blame it all on motherhood. The parents among you know that it's never about you anymore. It's about the tiny human being whose life has just begun. It didn't make sense to me to continue raising my child in a place that was facing a hurricane of violence. At that point, we still had some hope that maybe, just maybe, things will calm down. However, a few more months, and my husband faced the chance of getting called to rejoin military service. That was the turning point in our lives. That's when we ran out of choices and decided that we cannot stay anymore. Simply because joining the Syrian army means you either kill or get killed. No other option. We left everything behind and we fled to Jordan. That's how I transitioned from being a citizen of my home country to a refugee in a host country for the next 17 months. During that time, I was fortunate enough to continue working on the resettlement program for the Canadian Embassy in Amman. Suddenly, I find myself on the other side of the process. With the help of outstanding friends and family members, and thanks to the one-of-a-kind refugee private sponsorship program, which my friend Erum will talk to you about in a minute, I landed in Canada in 2014. Just like in one day, I became a refugee once I entered Jordan, another 24-hour transition, and I was no longer a refugee. I became a permanent resident of Canada. To start a new life in a place like Canada, you need to step outside yourself for a bit and get over that fixed image that social and financial boundaries created inside of you. When we did that, both my husband and I found that the options were endless. It gave us courage to try things we never thought we could try. I got a job in corporate immigration, US corporate immigration, 3 months after landing, a field I never had prior experience in. My husband, whose professional background is in telecommunication, volunteered at an outstanding preschool for kids with special needs. Then he volunteered at a reputable TV station. Now, he designs and sells closets. For the first few months, riding the very busy Toronto subway was culturally eye-opening for me. It was amazing to witness how diverse people are. In one ride, you can see people from all over the globe. This diversity, I think, forces a sense of respect towards your fellow human and creates this understanding that no matter where you're from, you can be an active member of the society. Nobody is an outsider. It's all about inclusion. When Canadians stepped up to sponsor Syrians, I was beyond impressed with how well they connected through social media and all other means. They formed groups, they fundraised, they decided to sponsor one family and then the other and then the other. It was taken for granted that I should assist, I should get involved because this is something I knew inside out. Eventually, this led me to meet a lot of Canadians, a lot of great Canadians that I'm proud to call my friends today. One of them is this lovely person standing next to me. United, people like myself and Erum hope to do our part in turning the disastrous outcome of a global crisis into an opportunity to change people's lives. Thank you.
Bonsoir. I, like thousands of people across this country, am part of a joint effort in sponsoring Syrian refugees. Like some of you, I read the news with feelings of despair and powerlessness. I learned never again in school, but have only seen again and again around the world when it comes to conflict. And as odd as it sounds, the Syrian refugee crisis has provided many of us who experience this ongoing despair a chance to pause, rebel, and say enough. We will not be complicit through our silence, through our apathy, through our distance, and accept that thousands of people are dying, suffering, losing their homes and their livelihoods. We will not be quiet bystanders. There's something visceral about this crisis. The images, masses of people shifting across lands and seas, losing children and elders in waves and forests, being shunned or greeted at borders. And it's forced us to face our own politics and beliefs and ask the very basic question, who am I? And especially, who am I when I witness such violence against fellow human beings? Do I close doors or do I open them? It's in this spirit that many of us have sponsored refugee families, which in my case started with answering a very simple Facebook post that appeared on our neighborhood page. Is anyone interested in sponsoring a refugee family? Sure. And just like that, 15 of us, mostly strangers, responded, connected, and now are close friends. Although we entered this process in solidarity for refugees, it's the transformations in our own communities in Canada that I want to highlight today. I live in Toronto, a city often described as cold and inward-looking, and let me tell you, it is anything but. In the past year, you can't go to a grocery store, a kid's school play, without running into someone who's sponsoring a refugee family. This city, like so many others across this country, has come alive in its attempts to welcome newcomers. Our municipalities, our libraries, our schools, all kinds of religious entities have collectively engaged. And you have groups now connecting with one another, sharing information, furniture, coming up with creative ways to put their talents to use. There have been pop-up shops to allow the newly arrived refugees to pick out their own clothes to give them a sense of dignity. There are dentists fixing teeth for free, daycare providers watching little ones, comedians fundraising through stand-up, and so on and so on and so on. And what you have is a palpable spirit of civic engagement and creativity, of Canadians working with fellow Canadians and strangers in common cause and having fun doing so. My own sponsorship group, most of whom were complete strangers, have sat in my living room where we've had intimate conversations about the importance of maintaining the dignity of the refugee families while recognizing that we hold all the power in that relationship. We've had difficult evenings, like the kind where we had to select a family and we had to rifle through photocopied forms with people's handwritten notes on them and decide which family we would sponsor and bring to Canada and which ones we would leave at the hand of their own circumstances. These people, my sponsorship group, I would never have met otherwise. And that's the part we forget when we talk about people coming to this country. When we discuss refugees, there's discourse about people coming who won't share our values, people who will take our jobs or pose security threats, or when there's a positive image, it's a people that are being saved by us and we are the savior. But what we forget is what is happening to us as we prepare for newcomers. We become more connected. We come out of our everyday 9-to-5 shell and our static social groups. We build relationships and affirm over and over those values that we think will be threatened by others. And that's not to say that welcoming newcomers will be easy, nor should it be. Learning languages, social codes, cultural nuances can take years in the best of times, let alone coming from trauma. There will be awkward moments, perhaps misunderstandings. But the point is to have conversations. Immigrants are often blamed for not integrating, but we have to provide them something to integrate with. And that's not just the job of governments, it's the job of citizens and the conversations we carry. The two things which every single one of us can give is people time to adapt and conversation. I've been criticized, called naive, told that outsiders will threaten the Canadian way of life, people will be on welfare, and our tax dollars are going to be supporting strangers and foreigners. To this I answer, we must be wary of the labels we prescribe to people before we've even had a conversation with them. Imagine being told over and over, you don't fit in, you won't fit in, you won't fit in. We are in effect going to create a class of people who won't fit in. And those social constructions will take generations to shrug off. Part of how people will act in Canada is a reflection of how we treat them. We have immense power in shaping their stories and experiences, and ours. I think of my sponsorship group, made up of atheists and Jews and Christians and Muslims and agnostics and some whose faith I don't even know. We're composed of heterosexual and same-sex couples from different professional and cultural backgrounds. That kind of pluralism doesn't exist everywhere. And yet, there we are on Wednesday nights, drinking tea, laughing, planning, compromising in a spirit of common cause. And we're not embarking in this in blind faith, rather in good faith. And we're thankful for this opportunity, for it has brought us Canadians together and enriched our lives. Thank you.